Well, everyone, thank you for coming in after lunch. My name is Ballard. I'm CEO and co-founder of Apex Labs, and I will lead this merry band of upstarts and pioneers in the connected enterprise. I will run the format so we get to hear different perspectives on how people have approached a connected workforce and how wearable technology has helped upskill and elevate the human element in the next industrial revolution. We'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. We'll go through some questions that we've worked through, and then we'll save time at the end for you guys to engage with us. I think one of the things that's really exciting about this group of speakers today is that they have real-world experience. This is not imaginary. It's not about what could be. It's what they've already done. And that is a very valuable perspective in understanding how technology can truly be transformative. So with that, if you guys could each introduce yourself and give the audience a hint of what you've done with this technology.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm Hillary Barnhart. I'm head of business operations and program management at Applied Materials. And we make the equipment that processes the wafers, that makes the chips that goes into all these cool wearables. And my background is electrical and industrial engineering. I also have an MBA. I've been in Applied for 25 years, from $400 million company to a 10 billion plus, and in almost every function and role. I also lead an entrepreneurial venture for smart glasses. And what really led me to start that, which is why I'm here talking today, is we have a lot of old products and we have a lot of hands-on experts working out in the field and supplier locations who speak different languages, and they get stuck and they need help, and we have to fly experts over. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they could be wearing, and as they're working hands-on, they could tap into a remote expert anywhere in the world who could help them.
Great. Paul? Great. So I'm Paul Boris. I'm with GE Digital. My background is manufacturing. Actually, I started a couple weeks out of high school, got on a Greyhound bus in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and went to my first co-op, engineering co-op at Tarrytown Body Assembly Plant, which is now a flattened piece of ground up in New York. And spent a lot of time in manufacturing and operations, moving through that space, found my way into technology supporting manufacturing, came to SAP shortly after that, spent about 10 years driving a manufacturing strategy at SAP, and almost 2 years ago started with GE as the CIO for Advanced Manufacturing Strategy, and am now the head of manufacturing industries for GE Digital. And I also just recently, in the last couple of days, we were able to announce was invited to join the board of directors of Vuzix, which I'm pretty proud and honored to take that role. And it's it's interesting because Hillary talked about in the field and having devices that have been around for a bunch of years, how you get people interacting better. The thing I think that's really inspired us a lot around the wearables, around the technology, is being able to quickly and easily constrain a vast array of knowledge and data and get it to the right person at the right time in the right place, right? And I love the videos. I'm an iPad fan. I use these devices, but if I see one more operator or manufacturing person or someone who's standing in front of a piece of equipment they're supposed to be working on with two hands on a device, it's the kind of thing that just drives me nuts, right? Because you don't make money by accumulating the data. You make money by impacting the process. Right, so how do you make those devices more pervasive to that and simpler, easier to consume data? And I think we're on the threshold of a real breakthrough with those types of technologies, and it'll have a huge impact, in our case, all across GE.
All right. My name is Jason DeStories. I work for Boeing Research and Technology, specifically in the Manufacturing Research and Development Group. So our group's charter is we're in charge of looking at futuristic technologies, whether it's wearables or 3D printing, ergonomic solutions, and getting them on the floor in a ship-side support fashion. So what can we do to directly affect people today? a lot of those technologies, such as, you know, glass is a little bit, or the Wearables project was a little bit farther out, you know, than maybe it was ready for 2 years ago. But I've been in charge of the Wearables at Boeing wire harness project that we've been doing in Mesa, Arizona, and been with Boeing about 5 years, and it's been really good.
My name is Bret Evans, Senior Director of IT Supply Chain in Johnson & Johnson, based out of Orange County, California. I've been with several different companies, Roadway, Yellow Freight for 9 years, General Electric for 9 years, and I've been with J&J for 8. My key responsibility within the business is to ensure that 22 of our manufacturing sites are up and running at all times across the globe. Have a team deployed to ensure that we have strategic systems put in place and that everything is running as required. My team also is partnered in innovation. So I wear a second hat, not only across medical device, but across pharmaceutical and the consumer business within J&J, deploying mobility solutions. And over the course of the last 3 years, we've had quite a big success on small, low-cost deployments that create change, productivity gains, quality gains. And over the course of the last year and a half, have been partnered with Apex and Google, preparing to deploy a solution, a smart glass step-by-step process in our manufacturing site in Dallas, Texas. So that's just the beginning, and nice to be here.
Thank you, everybody. Well, so the next set of questions, I'm gonna volley them up. Feel free to jump on them if it strikes a chord with your business. And before we dive into exactly how you guys are embracing the technologies with the wearable technology specifically, how has the attitude of the connected worker really surfaced recently at your companies? I think that's kind of the fundamental thing you have to look at first. And then, you know, what about that attitude pushed you to look at wearables?
We have field service engineers who had been hampered by the lack of they didn't even have phones. And we got some new management in, and they realized how it's really important for these engineers to have not only iPhones, but to have mobile access to all of our internal applications. Now we even have an internal app store. So in the course of, I'd say, 2 years, there's been tremendous support of, especially from our IT team, supported by executive management on how to enable mobility for all of our employees.
Certainly, 4 years ago, in the time that I've been at Boeing, let's say 5 years ago, there definitely was a lot of resistance to, mobile applications. Just recently, there's a huge push, like you're saying, being able to access that type of data on any device, whether it's a wearable device, mobile device, common user interfaces so that, minimize the confusion, make things a clean layout. There's really been a big push for that.
But you have tight security. We've had every application we deploy has to go through, and we have a lot of people from GIS here, which is IT. You can't just download an app and suck out data from the company or customer data. We have rigorous controls. So.
Yeah, I think, we've seen it it's interesting on the plant floor because if 5 years ago or so you stood in front of a bunch of manufacturing folks and talked about iPads and showed iPad apps, they kind of looked at you like you were nuts, right? We have today in...
Should I cover my speaker notes with Hillary's paper?
It's just I was always the guy that had the iPad and the Apple TV and doing the presentations on that kind of stuff. And the reality is today in our reman shops in Grove City, Pennsylvania, we use iPads and we use them without OtterBoxes. This is tearing down locomotives down to the engine core, rebuilding them about as greasy and grimy as you would imagine in an engine teardown location, and they use them very effectively. So I think when you, from an operator standpoint, if you're up at the top of the stack and you're kind of talking about, here's some cool tech, people don't necessarily get it. If you get down in the hands of the operator who's trying to do something, and you say, hey, you don't have to walk 20 yards to get a drawing anymore, or you don't have to pick up a device. There's a whole different level of adoption at the point of where the work product meets the operator, meets the use case, than there is really even at the top of the organization.
She sort of moved me into my next question, and obviously, as people who've experienced the technology, we see, and we're all technology producers, we see the benefit technology can bring to our customers, but it is the pain point of the customer that drives a transformation. It is something is so broken or has existed in a way so long that every once in a while I might look at a new way to address it. What about the last, call it 18 months, changed that moved wearables into a pole position for a connected workforce?
My company was just the squeaky mouse, because the initial vision when I presented the idea of wearables was, oh, that's not going to work. Immediately, oh, customers won't let this into our fabs. And I thought, well, wait a minute, okay. The use case isn't for us to look at what our customers are doing, it's for us to look at our internal manufacturing, into our internal supply chain. Let's start within our, quote, virtual four walls before. So the thought of it's like when Google first went and you'd wear your glasses walking down the street and people felt invaded. Well, that was how it was viewed, that our customers would feel invaded by this technology. So we said, okay, let's forget about customers for now. We have a lot of internal pain. Let's see where we can use wearables to address our internal operating efficiency and effectiveness.
So we're looking at no tiers applications of technology, right?
Yes. Yeah, and for J&J, quality is number one for us. And so how can we reduce paper on the manufacturing floor? How can we get SOPs, work instructions at the point of need, and reduce any kind of human error? So in our proof of concept with Smart Glass, we actually connected to our MES system. We also connected to our CMMS system just via a simple API, and we were able to work through a business case and a proof of concept that would save time, but also touch on that quality piece to reduce any kind of errors.
And from our side, I'll speak from more of the wire harness area. So Boeing's inherited a lot of companies over the years. So whether you're on commercial, defense, you got F-18, F-15, those all came from different database systems. And so, we've all known that we want, common data systems for a long time, but the push is really going after that now as you start to say, hey, I can have all my work instructions on a mobile phone, and you want to tie into a database that's scattered. And you're really starting to see the investment toward organizing that and seeing what kind of devices we can connect to.
So you showed a video last night. For those that didn't see it, Boeing unveiled a look deep inside one of their factories that showed exactly how wearables was changing the way people interface with it. There was some quotes in that video that talked about this was a paper process, then it was a mobile process, and now it is a truly in-the-moment process.
Yeah, exactly. It did start out as a paper process. They were printing it out from Access. That was the digital system. Well, now they're on a digital system, so they're using Access. They save it as a PDF on a computer, and they're using Control F to find where that wire number is. And when we first started that development, mobile phone was another solution. Right? What if I can have that same application on a mobile device? And really, getting down with the technicians and working on their level, and we, prototyped some applications using glass, and they immediately gravitated toward that. Not because, initially, the first week, it was cool. Like, it was really cool to have glass, but you started to see, like, the true time savings you could get from a hands-free environment, where they could actually say the wire number, and it would show up, and their hands were on the product the whole time. And so since then, the mobile phone has really gone away, and a wearable device has been the optimal solution.
Yeah, so it's interesting to think about the kind of that crawl, walk, run approach. I just think you got to get in the footprints of the operator, right? There's no good that comes, in my mind, from developing use cases or technologies that don't somehow start from taking the point of view of that person who's trying to drive it. And when you think about the complexity of what we're trying to pull together and how we're trying to pull the data together and how we're trying to drive the performance of that operator, and you could mistake that for work faster, and it's really not work faster. If we can, think about yourself, if you could take all of the wasted time out of your day so far and recover some of that so you could take a step back and look at the landscape and then try to find ways to do that job better. And an example that sticks out for me is, everybody talks about robots taking over the world. You can find this article online, but I think it's Toyota is actually taking robots off the assembly line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Putting people back in
Right?
it.
Putting people back on the line. And why are they doing that? They said because the robot is only ever going to do exactly what the robot's trained to do. The robot's never going to look at the landscape and come up with a better way or figure out that part and that part really could be combined into one part. Maybe I can put in a suggestion.
Yeah.
So if what you're doing is you're taking wasted, repetitive motion, time, effort away from an operator, and you're making their life actually easier, they come in, it's a less stressed environment, it's a less stressful job, my performance goes up, I know when I have a problem immediately, it tells me you got the wrong wire connected, it doesn't have a supervisor yell at you a day later, not that your supervisors yell at people, but I think if you come from that perspective, that, and then the availability of this stuff to the earlier discussion about the push, the kids are doing it on an iPhone, and we're not doing it around machines that are multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. That doesn't seem to make sense.
But you have to, we had a lot of interest from employees about, can I use glasses here, can I use it there? And we really pushed back because you have to demonstrate ROI. Would an iPhone suffice? And in many cases, they'd say, well, yeah, it really would. And we homed in on those use cases where, by golly, it's a pain in the neck. Ever try to change your cabin air filter in your Honda? Right? You have to climb underneath that glove box, right, and get a lay of the land.
Yep.
And right, and then everybody has different stuff in their glove box, right? So you don't know what. And then you get out and you play the YouTube video, right? Okay, I think I got it. And then you climb back underneath. Wouldn't it be cool to put on your glasses and call up the Honda expert and say, show me, guide me. Here's what I see. Oh, well, move your little thingy there. So, you really have to be relentless in finding a real use case for something that is hands-free versus on an
So
iPhone.
can I just take that thought one step further?
Go for it.
Because this is, I think about this stuff way too much. But you can, somewhere on YouTube is a video from Sask Power or somebody in Canada where they show the young technician in the point of doing the work and the seasoned veteran called up on a FaceTime, and the veteran it's actually set up so you can actually see they're sitting in their kitchen drinking a cup of coffee. And we keep talking about the gig economy and the changing workforce and the aging workforce and injury and EH&S and everything else. You think about the value that the 30-year technician really brings in the course of the day.
Yep.
4% of their day is spent using 30 years of their knowledge. 96% is rudimentary stuff. If you can put them in a position where now the one-year technician, now 100 one-year technicians, when they run into this issue,
Yep.
can call on the expert. I can move that expert into a safer position,
Yeah.
maybe give them semi-retirement. They don't want to be we worry about all these jobs are going to disappear. I don't know that they're going to disappear. I think a lot of them are going to change, and that seasoned person could be sitting on a fishing boat somewhere with a Wi-Fi connection going, I make $100 an hour to answer dumb questions. Whack it with a hammer, turn the wrench, that's what you do.
So what's going to be the impact on poor Boeing? You don't have to get on an airplane anymore and fly out to...
Well, I think you'll fly to your fishing hole, but that's
Right,
it.
okay.
But,
right.
but you...
More
know,
vacation
it's-
time. That is.
It's not only about that operator, it's about the workforce and how the workforce is actually going to be changed by this access to real-time capability.
Better
there's some amazing
resource
stuff.
utilization.
Absolutely.
And it's puts a new spin on human resources, right? I'm going to turn this to the audience for just a second because my next question will involve you. How many of you in the audience are actually technology providers into this space? All right, good. We're going to have some listeners. The the group up here, I am the one that is not like the other. We have ranging from 10 to hundreds of billions of dollars of corporate market cap sitting next to me, and I am the representative from the startup community. So think of this as an aspirational panel for me. You guys represent hundreds of thousands of employees, which is an unbelievable landscape for opportunity for innovation. Some of you have tried, like in Boeing's case, and I've met many in GE that have tried to develop solutions on their own. They look outside their own walls to find and pick best-in-breed pieces to bring together and apply to a solution. What gaps remain that our audience could put their energy into solving for businesses like you in the use of wearables for a connected workforce?
Where to start, right? Where to
Start. I mean, one gap I do notice is, adaptability and being able to execute quickly. The amount of new devices coming into our workforces these days, I mean, it's not just wearable devices, but new phones, and if we take 3 years to approve a process, I understand the security concerns, but we really need to streamline our intake process for these type of technologies. And if they fail quickly and move on. But I see that it takes quite a long time to bring in new technologies, to get them onto the floor, to get to the point where you can get a true ROI from the technology.
Yeah, we have we're Applied is now a very, I say now, very innovative company, and we have innovation challenges, and that was the genesis of this idea, where I pitched an idea, and someone came up to me afterwards and said, oh, I think we have a use case for this. And then I just had to pitch, and pitch, and pitch, and pitch, and I believed that there was an application, and we just had to kind of pivot and tweak and formed a little core team. That said, the gap still is that help benefiting, while these wearables benefit the bottom line in terms of operational efficiency and effectiveness, the next leap might be, okay, so how do I enable smart wearables or smart glasses to enable the top line? How will I gain customer acceptance? So that's obviously one, gap. How to then take it to the next level because of all the concerns about security. Connectivity is a challenge, especially when you have a global business like we do at Applied. And media management, because you are collecting so much data, so much information by so many people at the same time. How do you manage that media? And the security aspects, too. And so we have a very diligent security team. But that's, once you have that use case, implementing it, you have a lot of internal hurdles, and you just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, and for us, a lot of my business partners and IT leaders say, Bret, how are we going to handle the life cycle management, not only of the hardware, but the software, right? And I think just becoming stronger partners with our vendors and others, I think that's just a key space of watch out.
Yeah, I would say interoperability and a pursuit of the broader ecosystem. So if when we talk about Predix and the industrial Internet of Things and building those platforms, we spend a lot of cycles talking about what might or might not compete with something else, and is it the right thing to put two of those in the space if they're competitive? I think good competition creates better outcomes for the customer. So what we really ought to do is we ought to enable a lot of things very quickly so that we can determine, because lock-in is not going to be a way to do it anymore. Right? Cell phone 2-year program, those things are even going away at the consumer level. So the more, whatever the tech is that people are bringing to the table, it can be rapidly connected or interwoven into other solutions, even if it's got a level of overlap. Because if you strip away the overlap and you still don't have unique differentiating value, then you don't have unique differentiating value. You really need to find something else, and it's better to figure that out right away. So I would say that interoperability, and then that kind of plays into the security front as well, because security is going to be huge as this becomes more pervasive.
Yep. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. I've got one last question in the first group we had, and maybe I'll tee this up to the first taker. But as an innovation leader, what advice do you give to others looking to follow your lead? looks like Brett's gonna
Yeah,
take
no,
the
I
jump.
think just be, for myself, I'm excited about the technology. That's why we're all here. How can we work with our associates to solve the problems and implement these new capabilities to drive cost improvement opportunities, productivity savings, and so for myself, just the excitement of the technology and sharing those with my business partners. And I do that on a quarterly basis. Then they all look forward to me coming to show them the new toys. But then we sit down and we have the hard discussions around, how can these solve the business problems? And
So they
then
go
when
from
we
toys
deliver,
to tools.
right? Yeah, toys and tools. Yeah.
All right, so for the next section, I've got, I have a little bit of insider information in the sense that I've already spoken to all of you. I know what you're working on. So I've got a set of questions that's really targeted, one for each of you. But feel free to chime in if something strikes you. The first question I've got is teed up for Paul Boris. So as GE's one of the world's largest manufacturers, and you frequently operate around profitability targets, what are the financial benefits you're really seeing in these programs that you're started, and how does that influence getting projects off the ground?
So, GE's an amazing organization for a whole bunch of reasons, and it's not without its frustrations, and it's not without its kind of fits and starts. But one of the things that was kind of amazing to me is a fundamental understanding from the most senior leadership of the company that the data-driven organization is going to be the one that wins. Because we can no longer run operations based on intuition. We need to use hard data to make decisions and follow the data where that takes us. So that being said, we've gone at some of these programs and said it is the foundational or fundamental infrastructure we need to deliver. So I've had conversations with folks that say, hey, how long is it going to take us to build a business case to do these things? And as we opened up that discussion, the answer came back and said, well, no, we expect that you're going to take cost out of that operation next year anyway. So I got your business case for you, get at it, right? So if you're worried about what do I do to build a case so I can get somebody to approve it, what the leadership said was, well, we have to take cost out of operations, that's clear. You now have that kernel of ROI. Now tell me how you're going to get there. Tell me how you're going to enable data paths. Tell me how you're going to connect things. So it starts by understanding it's foundational to what we do. And then it's kind of this culture of fast works where we really drive an approach that says, and everybody likes to say it's okay to fail. I don't like that term. It's okay to fail as long as you learn. You should be focused on learning fast, which sometimes, maybe oftentimes, results in failure. It doesn't always result. If it always results in failure, you got to find another job. But you should learn fast. You should accept the failures along the way. And in fast works, if you could do it in 12 months, why not do it in 12 weeks? If you could do it in 12 weeks, why not do it in 12 days? Because what is it we're really trying to prove out? What's the value prop? So then that drives you back to the customer, I think, to your point, which is if the customer's not engaged and the customer doesn't tell you this is how it impacts life for them, then you don't have it. So the ROI is understood. You got a culture that says, let's get at it, get moving. My advice is get moving, figure it out, get started. And then understand exactly what it is you're going to deliver to that customer when you're done, so the customer can say, I thought it was going to be good, we figured out it was good, now how do we blow this out across an organization?
Great. So Jason, when you launched Project Juggernaut, which is the internal name of your effort to bring wearables broadly into Boeing, you did it as a public request for proposals. You put together a very comprehensive study of what you expected. It also laid out a handful of specific requirements to really meet the expectations of an enterprise-grade project. One of the things that we saw that was interesting in that is how you involve corporate IT in that process from the get-go. Can you describe how that evolution from the beginning and the involvement of different stakeholders across the company evolved as you move from this proof of concept into something that's moving deep into the production process?
Certainly. So the IT question. as we all know, it's a very difficult process to go through, and that's not because they're not doing a good job. I mean, they have a very difficult job, you know, Boeing IT specifically. I mean, they protect a lot of sensitive data, such as, you know, ITAR data, trade secrets, proprietary information. So you have an organization that's, you know, they're rewarded on protecting the data and reducing risk. So naturally, they're going to be inherent to, you know, not want to change because that brings on new risk. And you also have a lot of different business organizations within IT, you know, whether it's mobile devices, laptops. So initially, we brought out this device. We thought we were with the right IT group. Turns out, well, they didn't see it as they didn't see it as whatever organization.
It's like, is it Android? Is it a
Is
phone?
it Android? Is it phone? Well, right now, Android's not approved at Boeing, but we're going through, this group over here is going through an approval process. So there was a lot of really trying to understand what's going on from all the different groups. And kind of after going around for a year of trying to get to the right group that would take this to where it needs to go, Boeing actually created something called Boeing One Mobile, or One Boeing Mobile. And that's kind of the IT process involved in knowing who to talk to from all these different functions and taking these projects from inception to let's get it on the floor. I mean, no is not an answer is their motto. You know, if you encounter a no, what do we have to do to make this a yes, or what do we have to do to adapt? So that really helps you break down those barriers quickly and get that project on the floor to where you can start seeing an ROI.
And this is something that, as a Boeing requirement, before the attitude of a connected workforce existed, that there was no need for that integration
Exactly.
between
Yeah.
business.
So just within the last year, and we've seen that a big change there.
We've certainly seen that with others we've talked to as well. Now, Bret, you're a Fortune 500 medical devices, pharmaceutical, and CPG manufacturer, broad spectrum of use cases. We've had the pleasure of watching you engage across a variety of different devices, not just head-worn, but wrist-worn and others. Your requirements to bring a coherent project to play is complex. How did you look to the ecosystem and partners to meet that kind of long-term need and expectation?
Yeah, great question. So it's been a journey, certainly. But when Google Glass first came out, I had each of my managers across the globe purchase those devices and really start to brainstorm and think about use cases, share them with their plant management, operators on the floor, and within just a few weeks, we had a couple use cases, and I asked one of my senior leaders to take ownership of that, put together the business case, and then basically I took that up through the chain leadership and had each one of my business partners try the glass on themselves. They saw it. They saw a little video of the proof of concept. And basically what we were doing is on the manufacturing floor, we were able to take like a 12-step process and have the glass on an operator, and he was going to go replenish a piece of raw material. He was going to barcode scan the empty container, and it automatically went into our MES system, avoiding any type of handwriting or having to walk back and key that into the computer. It was automatically into our MES system, a date timestamp as well. And so my business partner said, Bret, man, you know, I see the productivity savings, right? And we timed it to be 8 minutes for every step that was done throughout the day. And they said, that's great, but really it's a quality aspect. It's the quality benefits. It's the reduction of human errors. It's the reduction of nonconformance, which is the #1 goal. So we put that together, and then I reached out to my Google rep because J&J is working very closely with Google on a lot of different projects, and they said, Bret, really the company that you need to be working with is Apex Labs. So we've been partnered together on this deployment path, and we are just probably 30, 45 days, hopefully, from going live. But all the validation requirements and everything that you have to go through to make sure you have success. And then we're also testing watches out in Ireland, so smart watches. So if an operator running a CNC machine, which is a heavy piece of machinery, if that machinery goes down, it's lost time, lost effort. And if he goes to lunch, right, bingo, he gets an alert on the watch, hey, I need to get back, need to shut that machine down, restart it so that I don't lose that productivity time. So those are the type of things that we're working on, and it's an exciting space.
And you see it as these devices can act together in a coherent orchestration. They're not totally different, different ecosystems. They're J&J's ecosystem, and they're methods of interacting with the person.
Yeah, they have the glass device today. They get an alert on their watch or on their phone, wherever they might be, put on the glass, and they go through and do their 12-step process. So that's how we've deployed it today. And right now, we've got about a dozen business cases standing up right behind it. You see what I see, video training, end-of-line clearance. So they're numerous. And my management is saying, Bret, come on, let's go get this thing running.
So, Hillary, you've become a bit of an evangelist inside AMAT, which operates across the U.S., EU, Asia. You've got employees both at your own sites, but also deployed at other sites. You've spent a significant amount of time building awareness about this technology across your business. How did that impact your role at the company from what you were doing pre-connected workforce to now, and you're viewed as a champion of the technology and a resource now?
I've lost 20 years. I mean, one of the advantages of being a long-time employee is the network you have within a company. And when I got this idea from just my experience as a program manager and seeing how tough it was to have these remote experts, and these hands-on employees and trying to release things through beta and all different kinds of legacy equipment. And so I was introduced to smart wearables from someone at Deloitte. And then anyway, this innovation challenge, after pitching, someone came up and said, well, we have a use case. I formed this little team, including people I've known we were all over 40 actually, and one of them is sitting right there, and I think she also started at the company about 25 years ago. And we had one person from legal, of course, you got to get the lawyer involved, right? We had someone from the business, we had myself, and I love bringing visions to life, giving life to visions. I'm an engineer at heart, and so we just formed this little team and got someone in from the IT architecture to make sure that, IT was on board, and Lori's also from program management in IT. And we just pushed and pushed, and it took me 8 months to raise $275,000 for our pilot. This isn't a $10 billion company. So what you need is just someone who's really passionate. So even as senior director, my budget couldn't cover it. And the folks I went to, until I was able to get in front of the CEO, who happened to have his immediate staff in there, who said, let's go do it. And we did a really, really fast, with the help from Apex and Deloitte, did this really quick 8-week pilot and took it from there. And now we use Yammer. We've set up a demo lab. We just keep pushing because this is fun, it's innovative, it's creative, and it's a win-win, right? It's a bold thing, and there's a win in it for everybody. There's a win for employees who get engaged in this new venture, like myself and the 40-year-olds who join me. And there's a benefit to the employees who it's going to impact. And ideally, we can now push through to customers and deploy it at customers, and we now have multiple use cases, and we want to get these out. But it's really all about communication, being bold, and having a vision, and being able to pivot, because the initial use case we had, or that people thought we had, which is, going to customers, wouldn't cut it. So we just turned it around until we found what is the benefit, and then all I need is $275,000. And pulling that together. So just continuing to drive, because this is new stuff, right? And in a big company, the industrial internet, this is where there's going to be a huge impact. Not so much to the hologram fingernails, that you put on, that they're selling down at the show for $20 a nail. That's nice, but enabling our 65-year-old expert to go fix problems out in Taiwan with welds because the guy welding doesn't know how to do it, that's an ROI.
Great. Were you pointing at me when you said 64?
Yeah.
No, I was pointing at me. No, I wasn't.
From over here, it did look like it.
I'm a little sensitive
No,
these days to this.
no, I was not looking at you.
I heard smart glasses take 10 years off.
They took 20 years off of me. I'm only 19 now.
There you go.
This is a way to go to retirement.
Yeah.
So for the next 10 minutes, I wanted to open questions up to the audience. Did we get a microphone up for? All right, so I got a microphone runner. Throw your hands up, and Sean will come around and get you.
I'll make it easy for you. So, where do you see smart glass usage in highly regulated environments? I mean, it can be for Bret, but also for the rest of the panel as well, where you have a lot of regulatory agencies and they want you to comply with certain standards or regulations to put on there. I'm thinking validation of the data and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we're following a normal, SDLC validation process that we would with any kind of strategic, system implementation, right? Following all the, the documentation and everything and the signatures. We're seeing the benefits right now from a quality aspect, and our quality partners are right there alongside of us, as well as environmental health and safety. They've raised up and said, hey, Bret, what are you doing here? You're affecting the workers. And we're like, hey, come with us, see it, and put them on. And then we're creating, internal policies around, the deployment of these and how do you use them. So it's a new world, but we're just following normal validation processes.
There's recently in the newspaper an interesting application for smart glasses where doctors at the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, during their actual exams, they were wearing the glasses, and transcribers, people in India who would transcribe their notes, they said they freed up hours a day. And so I'm thinking, with HIPAA, how did they get past that? But apparently it is possible. Now, for us, getting into a customer's factory, one approach is to disable the video, right? So you can bring in the content you need to follow steps or procedures, even take pictures, but if you then share it with the customer before you exit, that's one way. But you're not transmitting that data while you're in the customer's facility. And then you kind of put it in a container.
So if you manufacture, it's a highly regulated environment. If you've got the video running and you capture an incident, you can be guaranteed that somebody's going to be looking for that data and want to use that data. I am an eternal optimist. I always thought if we turn the video on and then you transmit the video in a secure way, you should have a team of junior engineers that look at the video and say, hey, there's a light bulb out, let's put a maintenance order in for that. There's somebody hanging from scaffolding over there, maybe you should get them supervisor time. Right, you could look at it and say, how do I make instead of locking down data to protect me from liability, how do I use it as a way to better and more quickly identify areas that could be problems? So it'll be regulated. I think it's just something we're going to have to deal with going forward.
It's also finding the benefit for that person on the other end. I mean, someone might say, do you want to wait 5 days for me to send an engineer, or you let me bring in my smart glasses and we can get it assembled for you? You choose.
Yeah, and as Paul said, right, so we were working with facilities organization, right, and they can take a picture of the issue and immediately start the work order, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a huge benefit. Yeah.
Hi, could we get some high-level comments on your thinking around generalized versus specialized hardware? And that's in regards to the current landscape, the technology, and your experiences and use cases so far.
What do you mean by specialized?
More specialized, customized, like you were talking about before, specific to healthcare, as opposed to something being used in, oil and gas, as opposed to something more general.
So we're pretty. I think I follow you. We're pretty diverse. Yeah. We have every use case. I think we're in a specialized environment, right? So we're doing a wearables challenge, and a bunch of things came in, and we even had things where how do you develop a glove so that you can make sure you're not touching hot parts or touching electrified things and all that. I think if you can solve the data and the interoperability problem and the security problem, you'll open up a lot of these other things for holographic fingernails, right? Because somehow somebody's going to say, if I could do that in this very specific use case. But what they can't say is, I'm going to go and find all the IT people that are going to connect this to this and make this work in this environment. They have to be able to say, I have this pen, or I have this pencil, or I have this marker. I can use this one for this use case. So the general use cases will drive the pervasive adoption. The pervasive adoption is going to come when we get better interoperability, And then that's going to unlock all kind of unique use cases that people will come up with. That's kind of where I see it headed.
And some of it's not in the hardware, but also in the application. One thing that was a challenge when we first did our pilot was we put on the glasses and it had every app on it. I mean, you could go to the internet, you could click to tap to the internet and play a game. It was too much, for a user. All I want to do is kind of like on your phone, you get overwhelmed. All I want to do is kind of have a thin client. I just want to go to the application I'm going to need. And so it might be customization more on the software side than on the hardware side, because you'd want to have hardware that, I'm in a safety, I can put safety glasses. I need it to be able to hear or not hear because I'm in a loud, noisy environment.
And our approach has been, get a platform in place for wearables. So we've been working with APX Labs, so that way you can use, in 2 years, the wearable devices that are great today aren't going to be the best. So that way we can adopt those new technologies. Everyone has a different use case, whether it's glass or a full-blown visual reality. So.
Yeah, and be aware that the technology is evolving, and like with laptops, now a lot of companies don't even buy them, right? You just rent them and then you can upgrade. Well, maybe the same thing will be with, smart glasses. You get one and you have a subscription and you can get the latest and greatest, and, on a rotating basis. And donate the old ones to the third world countries who need them over there to, I don't know. It will happen.
Okay, my question has to do with security. When we went from regular chest of plant and started going with laptops, we started doing VPNs and connecting, and it was kind of normal because it'd be like a person that would work from outside the company. But when we started with the wearables and with the phones and everything, and especially iPads, which we had operators share and use one time and then give to other, we started having a lot of security and compliance issues because, it's like who uses it, and if you log into SAP and who's the person that basically transacts and stuff. So we have a lot of problems with that, and loggings, and especially they don't allow us to do anything like reverse proxies or anything where we expose the information out, especially in a non-secure way, like we have to use Citrix or some other stuff. How are you dealing with that? Because we're finding out we're having a lot of problems with performance and with security with all these wearables.
Now, I won't speak for the technical details from our information security team, but I can say that, there's policies in place that when you're done with a computer, you have to lock it and log out. But if to log back in, I have to go through, enter a 10-digit code and remember this. You're going to find people that are going to navigate to the least resistance, which is just share a computer. And so the goal is to make that as easy as you can with a smart glass to log off and log in. So in the back of our smart cards, you have a barcode. We can log into the barcode would be the goal. And that would be the humans factor, I guess, to help secure the devices.
So we have, when you look at the industrial Internet of Things and the data and how we're going to connect and sensor all these things, that's a big problem. It's not related to wearables, it's related to everything, all the machines we connect on the factory floor. And we've taken an approach around, so one of our companies is a company called WorldTech. So we deliver security at the platform level in Predix, we deliver it at the controller level with WorldTech. So what you're really saying, in essence, is it's becoming almost impossible to keep people out, but I can listen to how the data is flowing and where the data is flowing, and I can learn from that if that's an anomalous pattern, and then I can shut it down. So if I'm taking video from a glass, I'm not a security expert, but the way I translate it in my head is, if I'm taking video from a glass and I know that the bandwidth is such and I'm delivering it back to the server, if I see that bandwidth split, if I see something heat up, that's anomalous behavior. It's nothing different than the oil light on the car coming on, pull over, figure out what's wrong. In that case, as long as you're not endangering somebody, you could probably intervene and shut the data down. So I think a lot of it is still yet to be figured out, but we're looking at it from both the hardware side, the software side, and then how you track the use and consumption of data for the purposes of saying something is not the way it should be. I can intervene instantaneously, and then I'll figure out how to reset that glass and turn it back on, or the machine, or whatever that is.
And I'll jump in and pretend I'm a panelist for a second. In the wearable side of the world, all of the different OEM manufacturers out there right now are working very closely to make sure their devices comply with industry best practices for security on mobile devices. I think if you reach out to them, they can answer very specific technical integration problems, and most of those guys are nearby in the halls.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. This has to do sort of with projections and into the future a little bit. Vuzix has been at this for a god-awful long time. Lots of arrows in the backs since 1997. We've had wearable devices, Windows CE based, et cetera. And it does seem for sure that the world has changed. But within your companies, they're larger companies, and there's a lot of issues you have to satisfy before you can really deploy something in a significant way. How far away do you guys really see this? Is this right on the front end of an avalanche of opportunity and growth? Or are your departments really just saying, hey, we're going to play with this for the next 3 or 4 years till we see if it really settles in? Is it accelerating, or are we playing still?
It depends how easy it is. And one of the interest within my company is booming. And when we go to then demonstrate the capability, it's not so easy. You got to make it seamless. It has to be just so easy. And we did our pilot with a couple of different types of glasses, including Vuzix. You know, customers, internal customers, I just want to, everybody's used to instant gratification. I just want to, put on the glasses and just show me, I'm in Israel, and just send me some glasses and we'll try it out. And then you think, well, I got the infrastructure, I got the connectivity. It's just not so easy. But once that leap is made, I do see it exploding. Once it gets really easy with an instruction book that you don't even need. Something as simple as your iPhone, where it just kind of, you push a button, it says, oh, to set me up, just do this and that and the other. Boom, put them on, you're ready to go.
Is it starting to get to be that easy, though? With the
No, that's why I don't think it's, every use case to bring it to reality, fruition, requires effort and program management. It's not so easy just to deploy an iPhone and set it up on your own and, mobile iron, boom, boom.
Yeah, my personal opinion is, I've been on this journey with my team and IT leadership, supply chain leadership. For the next year, right, it's about deploying, looking at the benefits, looking at, at the technologies, how are things changing. But after that, I think it's going to completely explode. And go a lot of different avenues and probably standardize, right? There's probably going to be some standard players in the market that, that we're going to lock into, and then everybody's going to ride that wave.
Yeah, I see once we get standardization of these type of technologies, and if you have the application for it already developed, I see it accelerating, happening this year.
I'll yield back, or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Look, so if you haven't heard Andy McAfee talk about like the rise of the machines type stuff, he's pretty good. You should look it up. And I saw him talk, and he tells a story about the second half of the chessboard, right? And if there's a legend about 1 grain of rice per square on a chessboard, and when you get to the second half is where you really start to do something dramatic. And the way he describes it is they looked at Moore's Law, and when they started talking about the internet, second half of the chessboard we hit with data around maybe 2006, in that time frame. So his premise is that things will happen in the next 20 years, more things than it did in the last 100. My simple math is that means 1 year is 5 years in tech years, right? So every year that passes will feel like 5 years has passed. Look, talk to kids about rotary dial phones and stuff like pulse dial on a modem. Right? I mean, the most absurd things that they have zero, and I'm not talking about 5 years old, I'm talking about 18 years old.
Yeah.
Right? They have zero relation. So what I see is because of this industrial Internet of Things, and because all of the connectivity and the security has to happen for me to connect a machine tool, to connect scale, to connect a CMM piece of equipment on the plant floor, to connect an assembly, whatever those machines are, because we have 9,000 pair of engines out there sending data back on every flight, we're moving very quickly to get to that connectivity that's required to make this happen. And that switch is going to flip, and we're going to turn something on. I talked to one of our engineers in one of our plants today. He showed me an app we built with this enterprise manufacturing intelligence approach we're taking. And he said, well, that app works on the 60-inch panel. It works on the iPad or the Slate. It works on the, I said, so it'll work on a watch, right? He said, yeah. So it'll work in an eyepiece, right? He said, well, yeah. The security required to run the iPad app needs to be as simple and easy and as fast as you described, Hillary, for the watch and for the eyepiece. And the minute that happens, and the pedigree of devices that are available, commercially available today, I think it's gonna explode into the marketplace in less than 3 years, is my feeling, just knowing what I know about how fast the industrial Internet of Things is coming on and how we're driving real value use cases from that. Nobody's going to get in front of that train. That train's already left the station. It's moving very fast, and it's going to enable all of these other things that we're talking about, so very quickly.
How many of you watch Saturday morning cartoons?
Every once in a while.
What was your favorite show?
The Jetsons.
The Jetsons! So, I mean, to get to that, where you're, holoporting, I guess that's Magic Leap
They don't
now,
know what
right?
the Jetsons is.
They don't even know what the Jetsons are. Right, they're still around. But, holoporting, where you can, that's what the Magic Leap is all about, right? The guy who Magic Leap, he said once he saw his grandmother sitting on the couch next to him, he said, here's my money. To fund them. So it's gonna take, if pressing a button, once it gets to be that easy, then it'll proliferate. Is it gonna happen tomorrow? No, I don't think so.
I think we have time for one last question.
Hi. How accurate were your ROI estimations compared to what you actually saw when you rolled out the AR solution?
That's a good one.
0. Our pilot wasn't long enough to demonstrate the ROI we envisioned, because it would take an ROI, it was about a year or 3/4, and our pilot was, but then we had to say, they said, well, you didn't demonstrate that you've saved 10 trips. It's like, well, it was only 6 weeks, in one application. But clearly, if we did continue, so we had to extrapolate. So our pilot didn't demonstrate ROI.
For our wire harness application, since we were going up against paper, we knew there was going to be an ROI. We had no idea how much. But I mean, you look at, what you're building off of, you have 50 connectors, and you look around on paper for one specific wire compared to, what we're doing with wearables now, where you can call it out through voice. We've done time studies where we've been able to show about 27% cycle time reduction on that specific portion of the wire harness build.
Is there an accuracy improvement too?
We didn't do a large enough study to capture that. We'd be needing to do hundreds of connectors.
So we'll talk, in 6 months, right? Because we're doing a wearables challenge. We got 120 submissions in from all the different businesses, and we're going to pick 3 or 4 of those and fund those. And some of them are amazing, some of them are amusing, but the majority of them are amazing. What I'll tell you is where we have done projects that attach to data and deliver it in a consumable fashion to a operator, our ROI is always significantly understated because of all the other things that happen, the quality of the data, the speed of the data, the speed to identify anomalies in process, all those things go up. The wearables specifically, we'll know in probably 3 to 6 months. We'll know pretty quickly.
If anybody tells you there's no ROI or we really can't find a use case here, say, look, Boeing, Johnson & Johnson, GE, Applied Materials, they're big old companies, and by golly, they see value. Don't get left behind, right?
So look, we have a lab in Michigan, at our digital thread hub, where we're taking and kitting up solutions and that are manufacturing related. And with companies that we don't have a direct competition with, we invite them to come into the lab and join us and help kind of co-innovate on these types of things. If somebody feels they've got something they want to take a look at, get a hold of me, and we could figure out if there's a way to set that up, or even just to have a deeper discussion on it. So I'll offer that from our side.
Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your insights. I'll make the offer for all of you. See us around, come grab us. Feel free to ask any one-on-one questions you want.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.